Could you explain working capital to your grandma? I have read your resume and it seems like you have a strong passion for the arts. So convince me, why investment banking? You have studied across so many countries, so why London, Hong Kong, Singapore? Hi friends, this is Case with Fox. I know that you have been prepping so hard for discounted cash flow valuations, enterprise versus equity value, a recent deal that is done by the firm that you are applying for. But guess what? These are not the questions that really make or break a candidate when it comes to Superdays or assessment standards. Last year around this time, I was flying all over Europe and Asia just for Superdays. I admit that I sort of had some clickbait because I only had 3 Superdays after applying for all possible investment banking summer positions. But I did turn every one of them into an offer in the end. These experiences were all for bulge bracket investment banks, and they span across Tier 1s and Tier 2s. And plus, the experiences also cover different regions from Europe to Greater China and also to Southeast Asia. So if you are applying to one of these areas, this video is definitely for you. This is going to be a series of 2-part videos. In this video, I'll be covering my 3 golden tips that really set you with the right mindset when it comes to Super Days and final rounds. And a second video will be on a specific detailed walkthrough of what kind of formats are going to be covered in Super Days and assessment standards. The reason why for this kind of sequence is because I know a lot of the companies are already issuing the Super Days and the final rounds interviews. So I want to make sure that if somehow you just come across this video and you are going for your Super Day in the next hour, I guarantee you that you will definitely take away something out of this video and you will go for the Super Day with a super strong, confident mindset that will definitely set you apart from other candidates. So before I offer my golden advice, here are some of my assumptions here. First, in this video, I will put Super Days and assessment centers / final rounds interview as the same thing. In reality, because different regions have different formats, so there are some slight differences. But I'll be covering that specific differences in the next video, so please do check out and subscribe to this channel if you're interested. But that being said, I do think that the differences are negligible because ultimately we are talking to real people and these people are normally the senior management team of the company that you are applying for. And my second assumption is that you are ready for your technicals. So whether it be breaking into Wall Street, Corporate Finance Institute, or whatever textbook that you are using, whatever materials that your seniors pass down to you, just make sure that you have all the basic technicals in mind. And I assume that you are ready for that. My third assumption is that you already have a certain level of confidence, or more accurately, you have a certain level of awareness of where you are standing across the candidate pool. Because you have to realize that for Super Days, one additional Super Day is an extra cost for the full-time employee of the company that you're applying for. So you already had a very, very competitive position, and you should be proud of that, and you should be confident of it. Great. Without further ado, let's dive into my specific advice. So my advice are nothing more than 3 treats. Treat your interviewer as a client, treat your interviewer as your mentor, and lastly, treat your interviewer as a friend. If you cannot remember all of this, just remember, don't treat your interviewer as an examiner because you are not sitting for a test. So first, treat your interviewer as your client. This is when the interviewer wants to see your professional side. Yes, they want to test your technical knowledge, but they are not testing it for the sake of testing it. Ultimately, they want to see whether you have the basic financial foundation and the situational judgment to handle the client. So what do I mean by that? It actually comes down to 2 things. First, you are able to explain complicated concepts in simple ways. Why do the interviewers always like to ask, can you explain the 3 financial statements or enterprise value to your grandma to a 3-year-old? It's not like your client is your grandma or your 3-year-olds. It's that a lot of times clients are indeed less sophisticated and they are not the financial experts as you do because you are supposed to provide the bespoke financial advice to your clients, right? So oftentimes in real work situations, you will have to be able to explain these concepts into simple terms and make the clients understand. And the interviewers want to test you during the interview process. And secondly, the interviewer wants to see whether you have the strong mental ability and also situational judgment to handle difficult client questions. We all know that investment banking is a client-facing role, and a lot of times clients can be tricky and demanding. That's why there are some situations where the interviewers can get intentionally harsh. So last year, I remember I had this stress interview during one of my final rounds where the interviewer literally just said to me, I was so disappointed not to know some of the company's facts. I was crying inside and thinking that I was so doomed, but there was nothing I could change because I really didn't know the facts. I said, I sincerely apologize for not knowing this, but let me just check it through and get back to you if I'm lucky enough to meet you again. But there are other stronger reasons that really convinced me to join your company, so how about me talking about those? So I kind of apologize and get my way to the other parts of the questions that I know the answer of or I prepared beforehand. I do think the first advice of treating your interviewer as your client is the most important advice, because whenever you face a tough question, just think about this. Getting into investment banking is one story, but surviving it is another story. That's why whenever I got a very tough question, I was just thinking that, come on, if I can't handle this question right now, how am I going to handle a lot more difficult and tricky questions in the future if I am actually going in for investment banking? So I think having this long-term perspective of treating your interviewer as client really sets you with a very strong mindset whenever you go for an interview. Now, my second advice is to treat your interviewer as a mentor. This is super important for mutual assessment because as candidates, we also have the right to assess whether the firm is good for you. So a really strong firm tends to have a very supportive mentorship culture as well, and the interviewer is likely to help out if you show your potential. But the key is that you have to show that you are coachable. So showing your curiosity, asking the right question, and offering your framework is always a good way to approach a difficult question. A typical way to answer a question that you are not sure of, you can just say that, I'm not exactly sure that I know the answer to your question right away, but how about I just show you my thought process and giving you my framework as of how to approach this question. And even if you don't have a framework in mind right now, having this sentence just gives you a buffer time of making you calm down and think about something else to say. Ultimately, having the mindset of treating your interviewer as a mentor is helpful in two ways. First, it's an excellent way to showcase your soft skills of handling tough situations. Trust me, the interviewer knows that you don't know the answer and you are nervous, but you are still able to keep the ball rolling and get the discussion going. And secondly, this allows you to showcase your thought process. Even if your answer is completely wrong, it's completely off track, but at least you have a sensible and a reasonable framework, then the interviewer would know that, okay, this person is at least not dumb. Maybe he just doesn't really know about this beforehand. And actually, during my internship, the best feedback that an intern could get is always that, oh, she's a super fast learner, instead of, oh, she knows a lot beforehand already. Okay, so my last advice is really to treat your interviewer as a friend. I'm pretty sure that most of you have heard of this airport test. You have to be friendly, interesting, kind enough for the interviewer to feel comfortable being stuck with you at the airport for 20 hours. Because at least in normal situations, it's very likely that if you are a full-time employee, you'll be on business trips together quite often. So the interviewer wants to know whether you are an enjoyable person to talk to and hang around with, at least outside of work. But don't get me wrong, this is not like some speed dating question shoot where they ask, are you a dog or cat person? What's your favorite fruit? What's your favorite color? It really gets down to your interests, and that's where you can talk about your extracurricular activities, your special interests, anything that make you stand out as a person. So I've seen a lot of my juniors putting a lot of case competitions in their extracurricular activities. I've also even seen people putting finance as their interest. I'm like, dude, you have a lot better things to talk about into that section. And if you are somehow really insanely passionate about finance and stocks, you watch stock charts 24/7, I would even advise you to have like a blog or set up a YouTube channel talking about stocks analysis. I guarantee you that this is definitely eye-catching and you at least will have my vote.
Okay, I'm not saying that I am insanely passionate about case interviews. That's why I'm setting up this YouTube channel.
Okay, so if you have watched until here, congratulations, you are already one big mental step ahead of all the other candidates out there. I actually had this video idea because when I was helping my juniors prepping for their final rounds interviews, they told me that these advice from me were really golden advice. So I was thinking, why not share this with more people? I honestly feel bad for those who are not watching this video because you know that my channel is super small right now. But that also means that you are super lucky if you happen to be watching this video right now. And that means that you'll be able to succeed for your interviews. So good luck. And lastly, I am Little Fox. I interned in a bulge bracket investment bank over the summer and have received a return offer of going back to the same firm next year. In this channel, Case with Fox, I do consulting and investment banking case interview preps by applying frameworks into daily business situations. So it's more fun and it really allows you to practice anytime and anywhere. If you like this concept and if you're ready to case with Fox, do give a thumb up and click the subscribe button. I will see you in the next video really soon.